What's good? It's Woog. We just wrapped up Canelo versus Triple G3, a dominant decision win for Canelo Alvarez, wrapping up the trilogy between these two. And before we get into anything, including the weird scorecards, I said a dominant decision win, but in fact, the scorecards were actually 116 to 112, 115 to 113, and 115 to 113. That means two of these three judges gave Triple G 5 rounds. I personally gave Triple G 2 rounds. I gave him the 9th round and I gave him the 12th round, the final round. And it sounds like most don't even think Triple G won the final round, but I think that others would have given Triple G either like the 10th or the 11th. Generally speaking, I think that most people probably had Triple G winning 2, maybe 3 rounds in this fight. But again, you have one judge saying 8 rounds to 4, and then the other 2 saying 7 rounds to 5. Super puzzling. But before we, adjudicate that, I just want to say at the conclusion of this fight, the embrace, the respect, the love, and maybe love is a little strong, but certainly the respect at the conclusion of the fight and even in the post-fight talks, both of them were sounding very respectful and appreciative of the other and for the 36 rounds that they spent in the ring together. Here's the thing, when people are dissatisfied with judges' scorecards, which we get a lot of that, right? We tend to sometimes take it out on the fighter. And, sometimes you'll see the fighter post-fight getting booed by the crowd because they just got an unfavorable win or something, right? But the fighter's just out there doing their job. At the end of the day, they are just out there and engaging in the combat. And it's everybody else's job to do their job so that, fights are officiated properly and that they're judged properly. But the brunt of the boos or the criticism should not be heaped upon the fighter. And so it was just interesting because there are so many narratives. And yes, there is some bad blood and, surrounding the clenbuterol and Triple G's willingness to keep on bringing that up, things like that. And, the fact that Triple G still believes that he at least won the first fight. I think most believe that Triple G won the first fight, but this was an emphatic, dominant decision win for Canelo. And the fact that they were able to essentially bury the hatchet, they dapped it up multiple times. They shared a long embrace after the final bell sounded, spoke for a while, and that was one of the things that I love about boxing, straight up. That is it. And Triple G said it at the end of his interview. This is boxing at the highest level. Basically we have a lot of respect for each other. We shared many quality rounds over the course of these 3 fights together. And if you don't understand that, you understand nothing. Triple G said that at the end of his interview. So yeah, this, does feel like it kind of ties it up. Of course, there's always going to be some level of bellyache over the judging of the first fight. I don't expect that to change, but at least they were able to tie it up. This was a very non-controversial fight. Pretty lopsided. Let's get into the fight just a bit. But, one more thing. When Canelo's, holding court in his, locker room just moments before, the fight and talking with celebrities and, just acting like he's the host of this show, let alone the chief performer. I always respect that and admire that a lot. I saw that over the course of Floyd Mayweather's career, especially the second half of his career. He's able to just, talk with, different people, different team members, welcome guests into the locker room before he gets going, but maintaining focus even throughout, anything surrounding him, any of the environment, any of the chaos, still being able to keep your mind on the job, but also kind of playing the part and doing that part of the job as well. Canelo, is one of these who go above and beyond, where often you see, Daniel Jacobs was a part of the broadcast. He said he likes to kind of, insulate himself and just have his alone thinking time and things. But I always admire when somebody's able to do both. That doesn't seem easy. But yeah, again, Canelo won this by what I saw to be the wide margin. The judges disagreed, but Canelo won. And it became abundantly clear in the first round that Canelo, we kind of discovered this in the first fight, I felt. We discovered this in the first 3 rounds of Canelo versus Triple G 1, and that was the Handspeed disparity, and just the fact that Canelo's punches just seem to pop. They sizzle. They just seem like they're smoking when he's throwing them. And his timing, his precision, just his reflexes, he always seemed like the sharper operator between the two. And that was evident in the first fight, and it was abundantly evident, especially with this 40-year-old version of Triple G, throughout the first, 7 rounds of this fight, where it just, I thought in the 5th round, oh oh man, Triple G's about to get stopped. It felt like there might be only one way out of here. Like unless you quit. I was thinking of how it's gonna happen. Is he gonna is Jonathan Banks or the ref gonna wave it off between rounds? Is it gonna happen in the round? Like is Triple G gonna get knocked down multiple times and then just beaten up against the ropes until he finally crumbles or somebody throws in the towel? I didn't know how this was gonna happen, but looking at how one-sided things were by the fourth and especially fifth round, I was almost certain, like, oh my gosh, we're about to see Triple G get stopped. But man, it's a testament to his, veteranship, his heart, his, perseverance. My goodness. And his chin and his ability to absorb those body shots. Now, granted, he was hopping way out of the pocket when he was able to kind of time Canelo coming in with big power. So he definitely tried to roll with everything he could roll with, try to block anything he could potentially block. Like if Triple A or Triple G, he might have needed to call Triple A in a minute. But if Triple G, and AAA, by the way, is like a car service. Like if you are out like on the side of the, if your car breaks down, call AAA. But yeah, it's a testament to Triple G's boxing IQ as well. He needed to find out how to stem the tide of the avalanche, that seemed to be rolling downhill. That was Canelo. And it seemed like it was almost by design for Triple G to kind of wait till Canelo gets at least a little bit tired. Because Canelo's super scary in the first few rounds, man. So maybe wait until he starts, just looking a little more human and maybe a little more predictable. And like you've seen this overhand right a few times now. You've seen this mean left hook. You've seen that hard right hand that he kept on throwing to like the side of Triple G's body as Triple G hops away. Like Canelo was trying to get his punches to splash. And he was mixing up some combination punching as well, where maybe he catches Triple G on like the third punch of a combo. But Triple G, by and large, defended pretty well. And given that he had to think so much about the punches coming to the body and to the head, like you definitely don't want to overinvest in the defense to the body and then get caught with that decapitating, left hook or straight right? So you've got to maintain a level of defense on both levels. And for, Triple G at this stage, and given how those first 4 or 5 rounds were going, for him to even win a couple rounds in the second half of the fight and even have a few moments like in the 8th round, I thought it was better for Triple G. That was like the first one that wasn't like a lopsided round. Like I looked at the first 7 rounds as being pretty lopsided. I looked at the 8th as being, okay, you could have potentially given that one to Triple G. I thought he had some better moments and I thought it was an overall better round, but I still gave the 8th round to Canelo. But that just tells you how long it was before this fight even looked like it was showing like a real shred of competitiveness. Given that, I'm surprised that Triple G went the full 12 rounds. Now, in my preview, I did have Canelo winning via decision, but I got to tell you, looking at the first 4 or 5 rounds, I thought that I was going to be losing big on that one. I thought, Triple G was almost certainly going to be stopped. I was just thinking, if this is one-way traffic and it's just about Canelo setting up these shots that Triple G seems less and less able to endure or to, move with or to block effectively, like he's got to eventually sustain too much damage to where, even if it just results in cuts over the eyes, and just his face getting busted up to where where they say, you got to show me something. Like if the fight gets to that stage, I thought we were going to get there. And we never really got there, which is pretty remarkable, as dominant a win as this was for Canelo. So there was a lot that you could say very good about both of these guys. Now, I don't think Triple G, again, was competitive on the scorecards, but his ability to go another 36 minutes with a prime Canelo, there's something to be said about that. Now, in full disclosure, I actually did bet on this fight. I rarely bet on boxing fights. In fact, I've bet on boxing fights less than like 6-7 times in my life, right? And 2 of the fights that I bet on were Triple G against Canelo versus Triple G 1 and 2, and I went Triple G on both of those fights. I forgot whether I don't think I bet Triple G via knockout or decision on either. It was just Triple G simply to win on both, and the odds were near even in both, with maybe Triple G being a slight favorite in both. I think that was the case, but I lost on both of those bets, and I think that I basically redeemed what I lost in both of those with getting the fight going the distance. I put 1 bet there, and then Canelo to win via decision specifically is where I put the other side. So I technically won on both sides, so I guess that makes up for the 2 betting failures. But man, I can't say that this was a great fight. I think that it was an important moment in boxing. And by the way, Triple G still has 2 shares of the middleweight title, and it does sound like he fully intends to go back to 160 and to perhaps defend those. That's what he said he wants to do. Canelo revealed that he has a hurt hand. Now, I didn't catch, let me know in the comments, if he said that he had sustained that during the fight or prior to the fight. But it sounds like his left hand is messed up. Now, he was throwing some pretty hard left hands. That doesn't mean that his left hand wasn't hurt the whole fight. Sometimes fighters will find ways to throw meaningful punches with an injured hand sometimes. And then other times, like in Gervonta Davis versus Esau Cruz, they barely used that hand for like several rounds. But Canelo said that he had a hurt hand and that he's going to have to take some time to recover. Now, we all know that Bivol's about to fight Zordo Ramirez in, early November. So Canelo's going to have some time. I don't expect Canelo to fight again in 2022. And I don't think Canelo's going to have a fight made before, I would say, March. Like, remember in 2021 when he had finished 2020 fighting Callum Smith, like in December of 2020, and then he went on that 2021 rampage where he fought like 2-3 months later against Abdi Yildirim, and then in May against Billy Joe Saunders, and then in September against Caleb Plant. I don't think we're going to get anything like that at the turn of this year from 2022 to 2023. I think Canelo will return to the ring probably in May. I mean, if he's going to have surgery on his hand, May is when he would normally fight anyway. We'll see how his hand recovers, but I expect that to be the next Canelo fight. And we'll see if it's against Dimitri Bivol for a rematch. Or if one of the sanctioning bodies pulls something and makes Canelo defend one of those 168-pound belts against one of the, mandatory contenders. So we'll see what the forecast holds. But yeah, Canelo moves on with a crystal clear decision win over Triple G. Triple G maintains a ton of dignity. I wouldn't say he was running in this fight. He was definitely surviving when he had to and making sure that the avalanche didn't get too one-sided and it didn't become too much of a snowball of damage and punishment. He did that with a good amount of lateral movement. He did that through throwing some well-timed jabs at the just enough. Not enough to necessarily control the round. Again, I gave him maybe 2-3, but just to do enough to give Canelo something to think about, throw something between his guard. As, Canelo's getting tired throwing a lot of those hard punches. Like, you see how he commits to those right hands to the body and when he's really sitting on a lot of his punches. Canelo, over the last few fights in particular, has become much more economical, much less volume than he used to throw in spurts in his earlier fights. It's almost like he's making every punch count at this stage of his career. So, but even with that, you see his work rate causing him to kind of slow down a bit or not be as devastating in the middle and late rounds. I mean, it's only human, right? But it looks like there's something there where if you could make the first half of the fight competitive with Canelo and then start kicking things in a higher gear in the second half of the fight. I mean, it was Golovkin in a few moments, like in the 9th round and in the last round, even certain moments in the 11th round. Like the 11th round, I was about to give that one to Triple G, but then Canelo did enough in the last minute of the round where I thought that it weighed more heavily than what Triple G was able to do during the first half of the round. But yeah, Triple G made Canelo look human in the 11th round, which is interesting given that he's the 40-year-old. I mean, Eddie Reynoso, I'm trying to think of which round it was between. I think it was between the 9th and the 10th where Eddie Reynoso said, show your youthfulness. He was telling Canelo, you're the young one in here. Like, put your foot on the gas, box smart, set up big punches, and you could get him out of here. But yeah, it's hard to stop somebody with the experience and the abilities, just the sheer abilities and the pride of Triple G. So it became more and more clear as we got into like the 8th, 9th round, like, no, you slow down. I think Triple G is going to be able to conduct himself, competitively enough to go the distance here. And that's what we got. Although, like, for anybody who thought Triple G was just going to crumble due to the punishment to the body, I mean, I guess we kind of have to dispense with that narrative a little bit, right, in this fight. Yes, of course, he gets hurt to the body. Everybody gets hurt to the body. But with the amount that Canelo was throwing to the body, yes, Triple G was doing what he can to roll with it and brace it and turn, give Canelo kind of more his side as opposed to the softer areas. Triple G has so much veteran savvy, and you could see Canelo try to hit Triple G dip into a side like he hit Billy Joe Saunders as well. He was trying to catch Triple G leaning, to a side and trying to throw that kind of mean scooping left and sometimes right hand. That's the thing. He can set up those big low power punches that are meant to catch the face with both hands. Canelo's a handful, man. And for Triple G to be able to go the distance, again, hats off to him. But please, let me know what you thought of Canelo versus Triple G3, and where do you see them taking their careers next? Given what we know about Canelo's, damaged hand, given what we know about Triple G's age and the fact that he is still a unified champion at middleweight, do you think Triple G, now that he's out of his DAZN contract, might hop over to PBC for a fight perhaps and get something going with Jermall Charlo? And Jermall Charlo's obviously battling his own health issues. He's had a damaged back, or at least an injured back. It doesn't sound like they're, remaking him versus Sulechki anytime soon. So we don't know what we're going to get, in 2023 from Jermall Charlo. It remains to be seen. But yeah, it sounds like Triple G feels like he's got some options in the game right now, but at least we could put this trilogy to rest. Please let me know what you think in the comments. And one more thing, Triple G's ability to absorb that uppercut that was coming up the middle too. Canelo was setting up a few of those shots, and a few of them landed pretty cleanly, and Triple G just ate them with grace, dare I say. And Triple G was throwing some nice uppercuts of his own, trying to split the guard of Canelo. That's where Triple G was having a lot of his success, and he even had some moments where he started backing Canelo up into the ropes, and I even saw him turn over that left hand. We only got a couple of those, left hands where he turns the wrist over and almost throws downward with it. We didn't get much of that, but there were a couple moments in the middle to late rounds where Triple G did uncork some more dangerous looking power punches. By the way, Canelo's crispness in the way that he was throwing them in relation to, Triple G's almost like looking like he's kind of pushing the puncher, like he doesn't have the same robustness in his, delivery mechanism. It reminded me a little bit of Floyd Mayweather versus Shane Mosley, where Shane was the bigger puncher. I mean, we saw that in the second round, right? The way that Shane Mosley could just whip that straight right hand and sometimes end the fight. Emmanuel Stewart, the late great legendary trainer / commentator, Emmanuel Stewart, was mentioning how Floyd Mayweather's punches looked stronger in there. His body looked stronger. His punches looked like they had more zip and purpose. And, when they would get in the tie-up, it looked clear who was the stronger fighter. It's interesting that in the fights against Canelo, Triple G, one of the greatest punchers of all time, looked like he was, kind of the more, I would say, wiggle-armed, kind of puncher, where it didn't seem as sturdy as the punches that Canelo was deploying. But maybe, they just look different when they throw their punches. It just seemed like it had a real-time, real-life effect, especially in the first 8 rounds of Canelo versus Triple G3. Also, Chris Mannix was asking, why didn't Triple G do more of this in the first half of the fight? He was, talking as if Triple G just has some like infinite reservoir of energy and is able to just, put his 40-year-old foot on the gas, from rounds 1 through 12. I think that he was a little bit intimidated by Canelo's speed, his timing, and his power in the first few rounds. Again, Canelo's punches were whistling. So, yeah, hats off to both fighters. Let me know what you think in the comments. And please, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you were into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.